The second philosophy of life is leave no words unspoken. Our son Austin, my 6'4", 220-pound human truck, plays hockey up in Canada for the Western Hockey League. And it was a couple years ago, right before Christmas. He had a couple games left, and then he was going to come home and see his dad for Christmas. Phil was very sick, and the doctor said he was probably going to live through the new year. But I got this call from my 18-year-old son, and I could barely make out his voice. He was weeping. He said, "Mom, I just had this thought that what if Dad just died suddenly?" And he didn't know how I felt. I said, "Austin, Dad knows how you feel, sweetie. But here's an idea. Why don't you write him a Christmas card? Write out how you feel and maybe write out a few little stories of some things that you've done in the past, and he would love that. He loves his cards." Phil sadly never made it to Christmas. He died 48 hours after that call. And in the past 2 years, I get asked a lot, what was it like to be with him in those last moments when he took his last breath? And many of you, maybe some of you out there, have been with someone that you love when they pass away. For me, it wasn't horrible. It wasn't horrific. It was strangely magical. Like my marriage. Strange, yet brilliantly magical. I remember Phil holding my hand and looking into my eyes with this intensity that it was as if he was looking and searching for my soul. He'd never looked at me that way ever before. And his cancer had got really bad and was in his skull and had affected his vocal cords. So at the end of his life, he wasn't able to speak very well. And he was struggling as he looked at me to find words, to find those last words, those precious last words. And I watched him struggle, and I finally just put my hand on his mouth and I said, "Phil, you don't have to say anything. You've said it all. You've left no words unspoken. I know you love me, and I know that you've so grateful to have spent the last 25 years with me as your wife. I know that, because you've told me that. And I know you're just busting with pride for your kids and that they're going confidently towards their dreams and living the life they imagine. I know that, and they know that, because you've told us that over and over again." And as I spoke to him, his mouth closed and his eyes softened, and he just had this peace. And I went on for what felt hours, but it was 5-10 minutes. And I spoke his words. I said all the words that he told us in letters and in person. And, there was a lot of tough love coming out there, and I left all that part out. But, he did speak to us in a very real way. We never wondered what Phil was wondering, because it came out. And then, after I stopped, he took in a big, deep breath and let it out, and that was my magical last moment. And I have thought of that a lot, and I have realized how grateful I was to have that conversation. And I've even thought about the idea that maybe, just maybe, all he was really trying to say was water. He just wanted, everyone dies in movies and all they want is water. Every movie I see now, it's, oh God, all he wanted was water. And I gave him a eulogy. But the fact is that I could. I know this is a room full of really young people that probably don't think about their deathbed very often, but I want to put you on it tomorrow. And I want you to think about holding the hand of the person you love the most and looking into their eyes, and you're searching for your words, and they're not coming out. And I ask you, could they speak your words? Could they speak your last words? Or have you left words unspoken? Leave no words unspoken. My son, Austin, wrote that card And he wrote it that night. And he sent it to me that night. And I printed it. And the next morning after Phil had breakfast, I gave him a 2-page love letter from his 18-year-old son. He held that letter and he had tears pouring down his face. And he looked at me and he said, "You know, that's the greatest gift a father could ever ask for from for his children. Words of love and shared stories and pride in what I've done as a father." And 48 hours later, Phil passed away. But there was no words left unspoken.
You're living your dream, and your dad is soaking up as much time of the dream as he can.
You know, definitely took advantage of every moment we had, and as much as he wasn't himself, it was just, it was incredible to see that what lengths he would go for his son.
But as Phil returned home and Austin to his Western Hockey League schedule, things would take a turn for the worse, leaving only enough time for one final exchange between a coach and player, father and son.
Austin called me. He was down. He was worried. What if Dad doesn't know how I feel?
She just said, "You know what, why don't you go home and just write a letter and give it to him for Christmas?" And I was like, okay. I went home and I thought it'd be tough to write the letter, but I just wrote for about an hour and just wrote what I felt, and it was simple. The letter just said that there was a lot more to our relationship than hockey. And, you know, we did everything together and we were best friends, and he's definitely with me every step of the way, and I played every game for him, and I still do.